Hello, hello. It is great to see everyone who is logged in this meeting. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Yes, I will begin by introducing myself. And my name is Rosemary Wachira. I am based in the state of Maryland, in Baltimore, Maryland. And I work as a registered dietitian and also a certified diabetes care specialist. Today, I'm going to address the topic of diabetes, high blood sugar, and how we can reverse those blood sugars, right? And also, I want to introduce something. I am a new author. I have a book on the same topics. This book is also in my background right here. It is called Nutrition and Health. And it has a subtopic that says fighting diabetes, fighting cancer, and fighting heart diseases. And of course, on the bottom, it has another smaller title that says the power of superfoods in reversing chronic disease. So this is a new book that is available online. It is available on Amazon. It's available on Apple Books. It's available on Barnes & Noble and many other platforms. So please, this is a good way to reach more people, and I would recommend it highly. So if you are able to get it online, please do so. If you're in the state of Maryland, I have copies that you can get, hard copies from me. I can mail them to you. You can just call my number, which I'm going to provide at the end of the session. So today's discussion is going to be on preventing and reversing high blood sugar. And I am going to share my screen so we can discuss those topics or that topic. Okay, so give me a minute and I will begin sharing. Okay. So the very first thing that we want to discuss is today's discussion points. And today's discussion points would include what is diabetes. We want to know what is diabetes and how do you reverse high blood sugar and high A1C? How do we prevent diabetes damages and the many complications that come with diabetes? And we're going to discuss some of those complications and how to reverse them and how to stop those damages if you already have diabetes. And then we're going to talk about the healthy diet for somebody who has diabetes. Diabetes is a disorder that results from either reduced insulin production in the body, or your body is making enough insulin, but you're not able, the insulin is not being utilized by the body as it should. You're not being able to use that insulin that is being produced. And that is what causes type 2 diabetes, right? In type 1 diabetes, people don't make any insulin at all, and they get diagnosed when they're very young. But with type 2 diabetes, you already had your own insulin, you are doing great until maybe when you're in your late 30s or late 40s. It's mostly in adults. And you will see that happen, that the reduction of insulin causes diabetes. All right. Now, how would you know when you have diabetes? What are the symptoms? So some of the symptoms include feeling like you're confused, you're dizzy, you're always hungry, you're always shaky or grumpy, even after eating a meal. You don't feel like you're satisfied. So those are some of the signs. However, other than the signs and symptoms, you can get tested for high blood sugar. Some people feel like they're thirsty constantly. They drink a lot of water and sometimes drink the wrong things. They'll be drinking a cold soda thinking that it will add the thirst, or juice, but all it does is make the sugar higher and higher. So by the time you get to the doctor and they check your blood sugar, they will give you what level you are in. So if you happen to be in the green zone, this is normal. But as soon as you hit the yellow numbers, which is 110 to 125, you're in the pre-diabetes range. And if the blood test shows up that the blood sugar is above a certain number, I have 126, the doctors will tell you when it's above that cutoff of prediabetes, you are already now being diagnosed with diabetes. And that is how most people find out. They start feeling very thirsty, very tired, they're losing weight, but they still don't know yet what they do, what they have. All this running to the bathroom constantly. But once you get tested, then you know, and the doctor starts you off on a treatment and maybe refers you to a dietitian or tells you what to start eating so that you can prevent the damages that can come from diabetes. And some of those damages include kidney damage and maybe even need for dialysis. That tells you you're not controlling that blood sugar like you should. Sometimes people end up with nerve damage on their feet, their legs, their eyes, or even end up with a very painful amputation of toes or legs, body parts just being amputated because of the damage that comes from having extremely high sugar constantly. And that's what we're going to talk about, how we can prevent it. And of course, there are many other complications of diabetes, but we want to discuss how can we prevent this. The first thing we want to look at is what we eat. What is the right diet that can prevent that diabetes or even reverse that blood sugar once you are diagnosed with high blood sugar? So the choices we make in food may contribute to the sugar or it can reduce that sugar. One of the things that has been completely, that most organizations agree on is that anything that is high sugar, processed foods, high fat foods, they contribute to it. They cause obesity or overweight. And of course, the more obese or the more heavy you are, the more likely to develop that diabetes. So World Health Organization has already told us that eating Western style diets contributes to almost all chronic illnesses. And what is a Western style diet? These are mostly fast foods, things that you would see if you go to major cities in America where they have fast foods in many corners. You're eating pizza, you're eating fried French fries and all kinds of fried chicken. Those kind of things contribute to overweight and obesity. So we want to see what we can do so that we can avoid eating high fat foods. Another thing that we need to discuss is the carbohydrate foods that turn into sugar when we eat them. There are some good carbohydrates and there are those that are not so good. We want to limit the ones that are not so good. But carbohydrate groups come in 3 groups. That is the starch, all fruits and fruit juices, all milk and yogurt. Those are good carbohydrates. And of course, there are other things like table sugar or honey or agave. They can contribute, but they're not all the same. Okay, so adding sugar to your tea or adding sugar to cereal is not the same as using a little bit of honey. They have different qualities. And the other thing you want to know is there are some foods that have carbohydrates. That is the ones that become sugar, and there are foods that don't have any. So the non-carbohydrates are things like vegetables, like broccoli, cabbage, collards, green beans. Any vegetable you eat, except the starchy ones. Starchy vegetables are stuff like corn, maize, or beans. That's a starchy veggie. But all the other vegetables are good. So red meats also do not have any sugar. They don't become sugar when you digest them. Therefore, when you eat chicken or you eat fish or you're eating something like cheese, you're not eating a carbohydrate. When you're cooking with olive oil or canola or any vegetable oil, those are not carbohydrates. But when you're eating something like bread or cold cereal, hard cereals, millet, fruits, milk and yogurt, starches, those are carbs. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is which ones are the best and how do you make a plate that is healthy and that will not promote the sugar go up. All right. So here's the thing. You want to eat something called whole grains. Whole grains are not processed. They come naturally the way they're harvested. For example, when you harvest corn or maize, that is a whole grain. When you harvest wheat or rice before it's processed, the brown rice, that is whole grain, right? So mostly brown foods like organic brown rice or organic or whole grain wheat, those are good for you. Again, millet is in this group as well. Barley is in that group as well. So you always want to make foods that are made with whole grain. Whether you're eating quinoa or you're eating barley or you're eating wild rice, you want to keep it whole grain. It's also high in fiber. And whenever you consume foods that are high in fiber, they slow down the way the food is digested and taken into the bloodstream. Whole grains are high in fiber, so are the vegetables and some of the fruits. All right, so if you compare this photo, on the left we have whole grains, like a whole grain bagel or bread, whole grain oatmeal, millet, and barley. But on the other side, you have the donuts, croissants, cookies, cakes, pastries. Those are processed food. They're made with white flour and they're full of sugar. So whenever you eat such foods, your sugar just goes up very fast. But if you're eating whole grain with fiber, like the brown bread, it takes longer to be broken down. Therefore, it doesn't shoot your sugar up quickly. This is what we want to eat when somebody has diabetes. It's what we want to eat always as a healthy diet. So the question here is, and I'm glad you asked this question. Somebody asked me this question. Can I eat potatoes when I have diabetes? And the answer is yes. You just need to limit the portions. A potato that is baked or boiled is way better than white rice. That potato is a whole food. That's how it comes naturally. It's way better than the white rice or white bread, which becomes sugar faster than the potato. The potato is also high in vitamins and minerals and contains a little bit of protein, a small amount. So it's good. It gives you fullness when you eat a meal. All right. And we said that the vegetables and the meats do not contain carbohydrates. So you always want to make sure that part of your diet includes a plate of vegetables, or on your plate, if you're eating meat, you want to have the potatoes with the fish or with the meat and a whole bunch of vegetables included in that plate. That's a balanced diet. What you want to avoid is making a plate like the one on my right here, where you have a lot of rice and a lot of plantains or a lot of sweet potatoes or a lot of chapati mixed in with the rice, all right? So you don't want a combination of 3 starchy foods in one plate. You only want one. The plate on the left has only one carbohydrate, which is, it can be mashed potatoes, or it can be ugali, can be fufu, whichever country you're from. Also with the greens, and then either fish or chicken or some type of meat if you have some. If you don't have any meat to go with that, and let's say you're not even a meat eater, you wanted to eat vegetarian food, you put beans right where the meat is supposed to be. Bean is a half meat and half carbohydrate, half protein, half carbohydrate. All right, so you can combine that very well, and it's still balanced, and it will not make the sugar go up. So when you're eating beans, you be sure to reduce the portion of potatoes or portion of rice, whatever starch you're using. But this is the format that you want to always have on your plate. You want to have a meal that is balanced. It has 3 things on the plate: a vegetable and a meat and a potato or starch, not 3 starches. All right? Okay. What else can you do when it comes to reducing blood sugar? What products can we use or add to our foods in cooking, spices, seasonings? And this is what we call Ayurvedic medicine. So adding cinnamon, adding, stuff like cumin, adding all types of maybe cardamom, adding spices like cinnamon. It's very, very powerful for reducing blood sugar. So cinnamon has been proven, and also turmeric, to be powerful in removing or reducing blood sugar. So whenever you're cooking, if you're cooking pilau, or you're cooking rice, or you're just making stew, use any of these products in your stew. Season your foods with different spices. Get used to buying a lot of different spices and check which ones are good for sugar. I have two here, right here, which is turmeric and cinnamon. You can also add many others, all right, depending on the recipes that you're using. But try to add that as part of your cooking, right? Create a kitchen that is full of spices, okay? All right, other things that we have and wanted to discuss today was what sweets, what can we use? If you feel like you really wanted to drink a cup of tea and you don't want to drink it with no sugar, can you add anything else? And the answer here is honey and sugar are both carbohydrates, all right? Whether you're taking agave or you're taking honey, you're taking a carbohydrate. The only difference is honey is a high quality product. It has what we call low GI. In other words, it doesn't get turned into glucose right away like sugar. So you can use a small amount of honey in your tea, like a teaspoon, right? And honey, of course, has other benefits. It's good for the gut, good for digestion, good for somebody when they have a cold or cough. So it's beneficial. And we're not pushing it like, a lot of teaspoons of honey. But 1 teaspoon is good enough to add to a cup of tea. What you want to avoid is drinking beverages that are loaded with sugar. And the beverages that I have here, they are loaded with sugar. More than 10 spoons, 16 spoons of sugar in one bottle. So whenever you drink stuff like that, it shoots the sugar up very quickly. Now, we want to go back to the drink that contains none of those things, no sugar, no food color, and that is water. So anytime you need at least 3 to 4 bottles like this right here. If you're using glasses, you need about 8 glasses of water every single day. And in conclusion, what we want to do when it comes to diabetes is to make sure you're making the healthy food choices. Remember, we said that foods that are full of fat, fried foods, are not as good for you. So try to order things that are grilled. If you're making it in your own home, make it like in the oven or stir fried on the stove, but not deep fried. All right. Just keep in mind that it takes time for you to change different habits. So if you haven't changed it in a week, don't give up. Keep practicing until you know how to eat, or you learn how to cook with spices, learn how to cook healthy, and make sure that you're controlling your blood sugar, you're controlling the foods that you're eating, and you're creating a balance for yourself on a daily basis. You also exercise. Always take a walk. If nothing else, walk is free. You don't have to, always go to the gym to exercise. You can also just do some walking, especially when it's nice and warm outdoors. Take the kids out for a walk. You get the kids out and they have fun, and you're also getting exercise at the same time. So remember to eat healthy, stay healthy, and prevent or reverse blood sugar. Our health, your health, my health, is the greatest wealth that we have. So let us keep that in mind. And thank you very much for participating. I appreciate you, and we can discuss questions in a few minutes. Thank you very much. And I am glad you came. So if you have any questions, we're going to discuss them next. Let me stop.